So today we're going to be doing a bunch of big upgrades on the Ender 5 Plus to make this thing much more reliable and user-friendly and easier to adjust, which involves us opening up the box that houses the power supply, motherboard, screen, MOSFET, and all that, because we got some goodies from TH3D. Not a sponsor, although I wish they were. We got an EZboard V2 that we're going to use to replace the stock motherboard. An EZABLE Pro, because, by God, I really don't like the BL Touch. The BL Touch, I'm sure, works fine for many people, just we think it's a bit slow, inaccurate, and annoying to work with. This is the first time we've ever opened up the Ender 5 Plus's casing here, and I figured it'd be worth going over some key details while we're in here, because it appears Creality has changed a few things up since they first started shipping out the Creality Ender 5 Pluses. For instance, we have an actual Meanwell power supply. At some point last year or two, they were shipping like these generic power supplies that were kind of like Meanwell ripoffs, but it appears we have a genuine one if this sticker is to be believed. The motherboard is a Creality V2.2. It's not a Melzy board, or it doesn't look exactly like a Melzy board, but if you look here, it has in blue BL inscribed right there with some marker, so I'm guessing that is their way of saying BL Touch firmware is installed on it. We got a separate MOSFET to handle the power delivery to things like the build plate. And we got the screen in the back, which has an actual ground going to it, which is interesting. And in typical Creality fashion, none of the connections that go to these terminals right here, they're not crimp terminals, but they're tinned, which means we're going to remove the tinning and be crimping on our own ferrules, because that is the only proper way to do it, in my opinion. So overall, looks like not a whole lot that we need to change. This is what a wire should not look like when used in these terminals, and this is what it should look like. Out with the old and in with the new. There was a few things about this process that were a little unexpected, particularly because the EZABLE goes to this control box right here, and it needs the standard connections for the Z end stop to work, and the Ender 5 Plus does not have that. Its Z end stop system derives from these 5 wires right here that go to the BL Touch. So we had to find some extra cables lying around, and luckily we found one that should work just fine. And we're going to go ahead and give this thing a test run before we close everything back up together. Well, we're about to turn on the printer. You know, safety and all that, but we're assuming this is all wired up correctly. We haven't installed any firmware or anything on it. We just want to see if everything turns on. So, since this is Mike's printer, he has the glorious honor of setting it ablaze if something goes wrong. But, go ahead. We got a green bulb. Is our screen going to tell us anything? I might have the screen plugged in the wrong port on the back. It's very possible. Well, to be fair, it's not like you read me any instructions, Mike. Hold on, let's turn it off. Alright, go ahead and swap the connections. Don't break it now. You having a little struggle there, Mike. Alright, give it a go. And now we get no power. I think we need to flash a firmware onto it, because that's less than before. So we found something kind of weird out about this whole system. So you can't use the EZboard with the stock screen because this is that touchscreen interface, and it's honestly kind of garbage. But to use the nice new screen we got for this purpose, it requires a special pinout board that we do not have because this board is a single ribbon cable to the screen. So we got one screen from our Ender 3, and look at that. It seems to work. So we're going to roll through some settings and test some things out and see if the printer is at all functional. So, funny story, true story, turns out the firmware, when you're flashing it onto the board, has the Z motors going backwards. So when we attempted to auto home, it was going really far down. I shut the machine off and reversed the motors in the firmware. And now we can auto home. But I think what we'll do now is a demonstration of why the EZABLE is just superior. So we have the bed leveler doing a 7x7 mesh. And the thing about the EZABLE is it's just so much faster than the BL Touch. And this isn't even the fastest it can go. This is fast probe mode, but there's also super fast probe mode. Now, there are some quirks with super fast probe mode as of right now, just because the bed's pretty heavy. That being said, I'm pretty sure I could send a message to the guys at TH3D and we could work a fix out for that, because I had the same issue with my Ender 3, but they changed something in the firmware and it fixed it right up. So I imagine something similar can be done here. Still, it's so much faster and it's just more reliable. There's no moving parts and it works really well. We've been using EZABLEs for years at this point. So we're just running a quick heat test, making sure everything's working properly. And one thing I've noticed is that when the heaters are in use on the board, it'll let you know when the heaters are being used on which connection with a red dot. And that's pretty cool. As well as the MOSFET from Creality also lets you know. Well, all things considered, everything appears to be working just fine, even though we're using the wrong screen. We're going to order a part to fix that, though. But, hey, look at that. Things are moving along quite quickly with this machine. And hopefully we'll be doing some fun, big old printing real soon.